So the last thing we're going to do is simplify and evaluate. Now simplify is going to be the same thing we did before. So simplify means you write it as one base and one exponent. No exponents, nothing else like that. Evaluate means you turn it into a number. So it's going to be we're not going to have letters here, it's just going to be numbers. And if you're told to simplify and evaluate, you have to simplify it, and then you have to evaluate it. You can't just evaluate it, because technically you could just, I mean, you could, but if the question says simplify and evaluate, then you must simplify and then evaluate. So for example, if we have the sixth root of 8 to the 7 times the sixth root of 8 to the 9, all divided by 8, which would be equal to 8 to the 7 over 6 times 8 to the 9 over 6 over 8, which is 8 to the 16 over 6 over 8. And then we have to subtract. There's an invisible 1 here. If you don't see an exponent, there's an invisible 1 exponent. So that's going to be 8 to the 16 over 6 minus 8 to the 1, which is 8 to the 16 over 6 minus 8, minus, oh, that was not correctly, right? So what we have here is we actually, that was a mistake. We don't subtract the exponents, we only subtract the exponents. It's 8 to the 16 over 6 minus 1, and that's all in the exponent. So what that gives us is we have 8 to the 16 over 6 minus 6 over 6, which is 8 to the 10 over 6. And then we have to reduce it. That's 8 to the 5 over 3. And this is the simplified. So now, at this point, what we've done over here is now we have simplified it. So we're halfway there, but you have to show it a step. Now we're going to evaluate it. And to evaluate it, we're going to turn it into, I'm going to turn it into a radical notation. So that's going to be the cube root of 8 to the 5. The cube root of 8 is 2 to the 5, and 2 to the 5 is 32. So 6 root of 8 to the 7, 6 root of 8 to the 9 divided by 8 is equal to 32. That was kind of pretty. Example 19. So what we have here is 32 to the 13 on 15, all divided by 32 to the 2/3. I should have put a radical notation first. That would have been more fun. But what's it going to be equal to? It's going to be equal to 32 to the 13 on 15 minus 2/3. Which is 32 to the 13 on 15 minus 10 on 15, which is 32 to the 3/5, which is the 5th root of 32 to the power of 3, which is the 5th root of 32 is, dropping pens all over the place, which is equal to 2 to the 3, which is equal to 8. Okay. Example 20. 9x to the 8. Okay, so there's kind of a mixture here. There's going to be some simplifying and some evaluating. We're obviously not going to evaluate the x. So what we have is this 3 over 2 goes to the number and it goes to the variable. So we have 9 to the 3 over 2 and x to the 8 to the 3 over 2. And that's going to give us 9 to the 3 over 2. 8 times 3 over 2 is 24 over 2, which is 12. X to the 12. And that's going to be giving us the square root of 9 cubed times x to the 12. The square root of 9 is 3. So 3 cubed times x to the 12. And 3 cubed is 3 times 3 times 3 is 27 x to the 12. So 9x to the 8 to the power of 3 over 2 is 27x to the 12. I think we'll do that in the next video.